Anybody hear me coming through? Am I getting audio? There we go. Good morning, everybody. Holy shit, I've missed you. Let's do a show. All right, guys. Ooh, that was a little abrupt. Sorry about that. And I see Xander Mac watching, which, hell yeah, I need a favor from you, Xander. I know that right before I went off air for a couple weeks, there was an issue where it sounded like there were two mics running. Let me know if it still sounds like that. I think I fixed it, but it, live is hard mode. So let me know if the audio sounds like it's supposed to. I'm gonna bring this microphone a little closer to where it's supposed to be, right there. All right, so guys, I've been away, or more correctly, I've been out of commission. I didn't actually go anywhere. It has been a hell of a month and a half. So I bought a great big old chunk of land out in the middle of nowhere. Started working on it. And I'm not talking about working the land like getting out shoving a plow. I mean, like, built a storage shed, unpacking boxes, just trying to get the household put together and set up. And as you can see behind me, I have not gotten to do the work in the studio that I want to do. There's going to be some set dressing behind me. At least, I've got an old school Green Army rifle rack full of M4s and M16s, and I'll have some Trump hats hanging up on the wall again, and all that stuff, and it'll look good. And I'll go ahead and apologize, y'all. There's gonna be fans running in this studio for a while because this is, I use the word studio lightly. This is a plywood shed that is serving the purpose until the actual studio gets built, which is several months down the road. But basically, and I'm not going to try to cover a bunch of news this morning. I just want to have a cup of coffee with you guys and say good morning, and I miss you, and I'm sorry I've been gone for a couple of weeks. The long and the short of it, really, about a little over 2 weeks ago, I had a cough for about a week, and it was, I don't want to be too graphic with it, but it was a productive cough. It was persistent, and I had talked to a doctor and said, hey, here's what's going on. Are there any other symptoms? No, there were no other symptoms. Just a cough and some junk clearing out. And I sleep with a CPAP, and sometimes that. I've more than once, because of the CPAP, you just kind of get some junk built up in there, and you gotta work it out. And so it's happened before, and it was what it was. And then, excuse me, about 2 weeks ago, I woke up one morning on a Sunday. Not even in the morning, it was middle of the night, so Saturday night, Sunday morning, I suddenly had an extraordinarily high fever, violent convulsions, and chest pains, and I went to the emergency room. This is the first trip to the emergency room, and I went to the emergency room, and they listened to me. They said, okay, you've got a cough, you sound clear. They checked me for COVID. It didn't have the coof. They hooked me up to the EKG, of course, because one of the first things I said when we went into the emergency room, and the primary reason we went in there to begin with is that I was having chest pain especially when I coughed. And the diagnosis at that point was, oh well, the chest pain it's muscle fatigue because you've been coughing so much. Okay, so here's some drugs. Here's a cough suppressant. Here's a muscle relaxer. That should take care of the muscle fatigue, the chest pain, and kind of dry that cough up for you and get you out there. And you'll be fine in 2-3 days. Well, 2-3 days go by and I just keep getting worse. Fever comes and keeps coming and going for a week, and the following Sunday, so this would be a week ago yesterday, following Sunday, I went back to the emergency room, and just getting in the son of a bitch was an adventure. We went to the first trip to the emergency room. I just went to the closest one, and the VA takes care of that. But the second trip to the emergency room, I definitely felt like, I mean, obviously I felt like I needed to go to the emergency room, but I actually didn't feel like it didn't feel quite as urgent, at least intellectually, the second time around, but it definitely felt like the right play. But decided to go ahead and go to the actual VA hospital emergency room. So I went to the VA hospital in Augusta, and you know what they told me? I shit you not. I get to the VA hospital in Augusta, it's an hour drive from here. They don't have an emergency room. There's not an emergency room at the VA hospital in Augusta. That would have been nice to know before we drove the fuck over there. So I get checked into a different civilian emergency room right down the street. And, you know, at that point, I'm just like, I'm suffering. My cough has gotten substantially worse. You know, bad fever, all that stuff. And I later learned that, oh, there is in fact a VA emergency room over in that area, and it happens to be across the street from the emergency room that I checked into. But that's all just a little paperwork problem that somebody else gets to deal with, and I am done worrying about. But the second trip to the emergency room, I was diagnosed with very serious pneumonia. And like, seeing the chest X-rays and the CT scans with it, like my right lung looks healthy, like super healthy. Like it looks like the doctor, when we were looking at the X-ray and looking at how clear my right lung was, the doctor was surprised when I told him that I'm a 30-year smoker, right? And then my left lung is just completely, yeah, and I know, Dad, I know. If you have one lung with two lobes, but the layman doesn't parse the language that way. So, but my left side, my left lobe of lung was just completely ate up with the with pneumonia, bad. And so I spent most of last week in the hospital recovering from that, and that the experience in the hospital, I won't go into too much detail there, but the hospital experience, quite separately from recovering from the pneumonia, was its own bag of worms, just an absolute nightmare of an experience there. And then I got out of the hospital last Wednesday. Dad says, remember Megan knows about the hospital situation. I need a little more to go on than that, but probably not too much more, because there are some details that, like, not even a matter of my privacy, a matter of just being polite. There are just some details that aren't for public consumption. But generally, for the past about 4 days or so. You know, I've basically been convalescing at home, and I feel a million times better. The doctors, when they released me from the emergency room, from the hospital, because I was in the emergency room for about 6 hours. Yes, Sergeant Major. She's a nurse. She knows about lungs. Yes. But yeah, I just basically been convalescing at home, and one of the hardest parts about the whole thing is for the last couple of weeks now, right? It's only the last 2 nights that I've been able to get more than about 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and I normally run on between 4 and 6 hours a night, but as I'm recovering from pneumonia, I can't use my CPAP, which changes the way that I can sleep, and that's a challenge on its own. And as I'm recovering from the pneumonia, I've still got a cough that's productive, and there's still material from the disease that's clearing out, and the doctors told me to expect that, and okay, got it, understood. And that is itself a complicating factor in just trying to get a good night's sleep. I got about 4 hours last night that we'll see where they get me today. But that's basically what happened. Is I just got fuck off sick, and kind of trying to come back from it. Now, there is an upshot. And I would not voluntarily go through this past experience, even for the benefit that I'm about to describe. But it is what it is, and so for now, I'll take it. I lost about 30 pounds, and I quit smoking. I haven't had a cigarette in 2 weeks. So, and I'm pretty sure that I'm done with them. And I say pretty sure because, I mean, I quit smoking when we got pregnant with our first daughter. But in all fairness, under those circumstances, I started smoking again while I was deployed to Afghanistan. So, and I quit for a long time once before that. So I think this time around, though, I think I'm going to have to admit defeat. The tax man has definitely, I mean, obviously I'm interested in my health as well, but the tax man is definitely putting me off of tobacco, at least to some extent. So, well, that's kind of the update. It's kind of what's been going on. Like I said, I'm not going to dig into a bunch of news this morning. It's apart from, I mean, Trump's conviction was long enough ago that I actually covered it before I went on hiatus. The Hunter Biden's conviction, is kind of a non-news thing, I think. But Xander says, nice, good for you. Vape some nicotine if you need to. I'm not gonna mess with the vapes. This may have been before I met you, or before we knew each other as well as we do now, Xander. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I've got a video somewhere, I think, of me back when I started. I had a little bitty business for a hot minute where I was doing custom vape mods, and I made some badass ones. Handmade, hand carved, wooden, hand tooled. I handmade the internals, the electronics, built the whole thing, and I vaped for a while. I even quit smoking almost entirely, uh, basically by vaping, for a while there, but it it didn't take long before just all of a sudden I couldn't hit a vape at all without immediately smoking, like or immediately coughing, like it was here's one. I'd start coughing like I was like I'd hit a big bong. I mean, it just suddenly it tore me up. Yeah, it's back in 2014. You, yeah, so I still had a military haircut. I was only about a year and a half out of the service. April 24, 2014, barely a year out, a little over a year out. Yeah, and here's one of the custom mods that I built.
Here goes pipe number two.
Great big, gigantic, heavy-duty tiki pipe, and yeah. I had fun doing them. And honestly, I will probably keep doing similar art. The carved wood tiki art. I love tiki stuff. I've got a wonderful tiki surfing tiki god painting that I bought when I was stationed in Oahu that I really want to put on the wall for the studio, but I don't want to put it out here because it gets so hot in this shed in the middle of the day. It's gonna have to wait until the legit studio is built, or I mount a mini split in here, which might be happening in the next week or three. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm still recovering, but yeah, Xander, I was real big into the vape scene for a couple of years there. In fact, my licensed artistic enterprise in Conyers is still exists as the Big Kahuna Tiki Pipes, and I did trade shows, stuff like that. A vape like the one that you saw in that video. I was selling those for about $400 to $500 a piece, depending on the amount of external hardware, and it was pretty good little piece of business for a minute there. But yeah, I've been out of that for 10 years. Well, 8 years, because that video was from the beginning of that little exercise. Yeah, people, and that was one of the things that attracted me to it, is people would pay crazy money for custom mods. I got $650 out of one that was I built. It was nearly the size of like a Tervis tumbler. And I custom, it was custom engraved to thank you, George. I appreciate that. I do. But it was custom engraved, and it had it was custom engraved and painted with Georgia Bulldog. It had UGA on the front of it, and the hedges down the side. And it had like a coffee cup handle off to one side, and that's where the button was, and then it had like almost like a coffee pot or teapot spigot that came up to a big long gooseneck to the actual mod head, and it used one of the 6600 milliamp hour batteries. One of the big like D-cell looking batteries that you get in the bigger vape mods. Ran off one of those. And yeah, that was one of my bigger ones. But yeah, wow, that's a whole chain of topic I had definitely not expected to go down this morning. But it was fun when it lasted. But yeah, I can't vape at all now. And I mean, I've even had imaging done, and I don't have the popcorn lung, but for some reason, and I've tried a couple of times over the years since then. It's not even an option for me. But honestly, I really don't have much more for you guys this morning. I just wanted to kind of do a show this morning because I haven't been here in a while, and I miss you guys. I miss doing the show. This is very much part of my daily routine, and it, my days have felt weird not doing this. It kind of screws up my whole routine timing when I don't get to do a show. So, and I like talking to you guys. So thanks for joining me this morning. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there. I know we've only done about 20 minutes this morning, but I'm not making any promises as far as regularity for the immediate future, but I'm going to try. I'm trying hard to get the routine back in order and get back on track again. And when I say I'm not making any promises, part of that is with as much as the situation has changed from before we moved out to the country out here. I mean, guys, when I say we moved out to the country, let me get y'all a little perspective. Okay, it seems like a big deal that it's a half-hour drive to the nearest Walmart, but in all fairness, and that's we're in a place where that's like the place to go do the grocery shopping, and that's cool. That's fine. But honestly, when we lived in Conyers, it was at least a 20 to 25 minute drive to the nearest Walmart. And that was assuming that you didn't get hung up on the bridge, right? It's another 10 miles further to make that drive from where I am now to the closest Walmart. And it takes about the same amount of time to make the drive. So, like, the best argument that anybody could make for the convenience, and now that I'm on this track, we may be able to fill a full half hour. So, the biggest argument that somebody can make against moving to the country, honestly, is the convenience of proximity to shopping and everything in the suburbs or in the city. And quite frankly, it's a little bit further to Milledgeville or Augusta or Greensboro. And between the three of them, I can pretty much find anything that I could ever hope to look for in Atlanta. So that argument is out the window. And just being out here is like, I mean, the air smells cleaner. It sounds cliche, but no joke. The air smells cleaner. Everything out here, it's just beautiful. It's wonderful out here. And because of the nature of where I've moved to, and now I've got all this land to play with, that is going to affect the production on the show in ways that I'm not even sure of yet. There's going to be some creativity involved in it. I've talked a little bit about, like, for starters, I've got this drivable clear. It's overgrown, but it's where there was clearly a drivable road that goes, as near as I can tell, all the way to the back of the property. And I say as near as I can tell because I've got it is overgrown, and I've got to get back there and cut away some shrubbery and clear away some logs and clear it out so that it's, you know, it's good and passable. But the wife and I have gone and walked that path a few times now, and they're, it's pretty dense woods on both sides of the path. But even without having to cut down any trees, there just happen to be these kind of these beautiful natural little alcoves all along the path as you walk down it. And I'm going to put park benches in some of those, and dress them up and make them pretty. And I think sometimes the show, depending on how, there's going to be some stuff I got to sort out with how to manage the cameras and the feed to get a live stream. And it may be that they're far enough back in the woods that I never actually do a live stream from back there, but I'm able to shoot a video where I'm, sitting on the park bench on the property and talking about, doing one of the more esoteric philosophical topics that we cover sometimes, or even just reading the news off an iPad and talking about it, and then publishing that separately. So I don't know how fast I'm going to be at a place where some of this changes. Sergeant Major mentions doing fly fishing shows, and I'm not opposed to that. I don't know how fast things are gonna change with all that. I know I'm not gonna rush myself through any of it, but I'm also about to be at a point where right now I've got a couple of projects on the desk for clients, and then once I finish those up, which I'll probably be entirely done with by tomorrow, if not Wednesday evening. Once I'm done with those, my timing, my schedule just basically is wide open. And apart from the the kind of chores, building, cleaning, unpacking, putting things away, because we kind of been, between me being sick and my wife being out of town for work for the past several weeks, we've just kind of been in a holding pattern on all of the work that needs to have gotten done as far as moving into the house. So, but as far as all that goes, I'm hoping to start producing some different kinds of content for the channel. Sergeant Major mentions reading Winnie the Pooh. That is something that I am looking at actually in a completely different capacity, maybe even going so far as a separate channel. Because Winnie the Pooh is a good example. There's a lot of great literature out there that is public domain, and Winnie the Pooh is public domain now. So there's a lot of room to do some interesting and fun stuff with that. It could be, once I got the park bench and set up, and maybe some flowers and stuff growing around one of the little alcoves. I've kind of an enchanted 100-acre woods feel to it that, just story time with Uncle Chris. Or there are some other paths I might explore with that. So, but I'm going to go ahead and button it up there. Look at that. We did make it to the hour. Thanks for joining us this morning, guys. We love you. I've missed you. I'm glad to be back, and I should see you tomorrow.